Let's talk to Dr. Edward Omane Boamah. He is the Director of Elections of the National Democratic Congress. Doc, thanks for joining us. Good morning.
Good morning, Bernard. Trust you're doing well.
I am fine. How are you doing too?
By the grace of God.
So the main registration of new voters seems to have ended, and now the transfer of votes is occurring, and we are seeing some violence. First and foremost, what was your impression of the voter registration itself that ended, I think, a week ago?
By and large, the issue was able to register people, but we all know that once again, the issues estimated and figure was exceeded. And this is even a situation where the strategy that the EC adopted constricted the opportunities for people to be able to register, because they just chose their district offices and some selected electoral areas. So you can imagine if the registration centers have been expanded. What this means is that the issues are a decision, deliberately or inadvertently, have disenfranchised some Ghanaians who couldn't ferry themselves to the limited registration centers. So in terms of numbers, we still have some Ghanaians who have been disenfranchised. We move to the numbers, even arriving at the figures. It was embarrassing as a team. We were going through the start of day and end of day printouts, and the errors that we were identifying. We pointed out some of them. But at a point, I decided that, look, there's no need. Let's wait for an IPAC meeting and draw their attention. So at the last IPAC meeting, which was held last week and Wednesday, we pointed out some of those errors relating to OT, region, relating to Bono East. These ones, we never put them out. And asked them, because of these things, you should go back and rework the figures again. Otherwise, they may be either underestimating or overestimating the total number that they registered. So in terms of arithmetic, it's very clear, abundantly clear now that at least the NDC and people who care about accuracy cannot trust the Electoral Commission of Ghana when it comes to putting figures together. This is not the first time in the 2020 presidential elections we saw the issue serially changing figures. The declaration of a presidential results figures, we saw the issue serially changing those figures. Unfortunately, I'm not static now, so I cannot refer to the specific. Otherwise, I'm giving you.
But were these errors of overestimation or underestimation generally?
Some of them were overestimation, others were underestimation. And thank you very much, Albeda, for this question. Never conclude that when there is underestimation, it means no malice is intended. And by this, I don't mean that the issue is deliberately intended malice, as in the issue as an institution. Let me explain. If I'm to share, let's say, 15 Ghana cedis between Bernard and, let's say, Samens, and I give Samens 13 and Bernard 2, we can arrive at 15. If I give Bernard 10 and Samens 5, we can still arrive at 15. Assuming Bernard's fair share of the 15 is 8, and I give Bernard 6, and I give Samens a fair share, which is, let's say, 4, So the 8 plus 4 is supposed to be 12. That is the actual value that may have been recorded. You will see that, okay, but the thing is supposed to be 15, but it has been estimated to 12. But in there, you realize that Bernard has not gotten his actual value that he's supposed to have. So we just don't want a situation where there is either an underestimation or an overestimation. We want the accurate figures. This is arithmetic. Excel can get this sorted out for us because you can underestimate. For instance, if you go to border region and you go and underestimate the registered voters, you've constricted the number of votes that can accrue to a particular political party, in this case, the NDC. If you went to the Ashanti region and you overestimated the number of people who registered, you've expanded the number of votes that can accrue to a particular party, in this case, the NPP.
All right.
So we just want accuracy.
So quick one, are you noticing these errors based on the EC's own numbers, or are you noticing these errors after your agents tabulate the numbers from the various district offices and electoral areas and send to you? How are you observing these errors?
Good. So the registration process is saying that our agents are observers, and so they tally. And when they tally, they also receive an end-of-day printout. So we cross-check the tallies against the EC's own start-of-day printout and end-of-day printout. So it's a dual process.
And when you do that, do you find what your people tallied and the printout from the EC to be the same?
This is where the issue is. Our tallies were corresponding with the printout. But unfortunately, the third layer, that is the printout that should have tallied with the figures that the EC was turning out, was where the problem was identified. That there is agreement between our tallies and the printouts, but there is no agreement between the EC's own printouts and their tallies and their calculations.
So these are arithmetic errors. So maybe somebody's adding and makes a mistake, because if your tally and the printouts are usually the same, but when they put the numbers together it's different. So these are maybe addition, subtraction, addition problems generally.
Addition problem is not even subtraction. I mean, subtraction is more challenging than addition. But I remember in the 21st century, 2024, in the digital age, should we be talking about addition and problems? We are not talking calculus. We are not talking quantum mechanics. Addition problems. A problem that reared its ugly head in 2020, declaration of presidential results. The EC has not learned lessons. How can we trust the EC? How can we trust the competence and the capability and the credibility of the EC when it comes to relying on them for the figures that they will be putting out?
But at least you should be heartened by the fact that your tallies and their printouts are the same. So that means that at the registration level, either electoral area or district, your people and the EC are coming up with the same numbers. If there's any problem at all, it's the final addition that's causing the problem. I'm not justifying that, but I'm just saying that at least you should be heartened that at the registration level you are getting the same numbers.
We are happy that we've trained our people well, and so they bring these tallies continuously, and we are able to point it out. But let's just project this to December 7th, the night of December 7th. Are we going to have a situation where we would have to be correcting the Electoral Commission every 10?
Well, that's a fair question. So the other point, though, is when you went for the hyper meeting on Wednesday, did this come up? And what was the EC's response in relation to the mistakes?
Yes, we raised it. The EC had already explained the untenable corral draw issue that they raised. And I mean, you wonder, arithmetic, visualization, and all. Why do you even decide to even announce that that was the option that you went for? So when we said that, look, beyond the errors that we have put out, we still had additional errors. But because of the embarrassment that was ongoing, we decided to shelve those ones. So we put those ideas before them. One of them, for instance, was a swap. There was one that if you just calculated for the particular day, just about 5 constituencies in that particular region was far more than the total that they had declared for the region. But the number of constituencies in the region was more than 5. So we raised all these. Admittedly, they were thankful and appreciative of our efforts. We said we were ready to move forward. But we also insisted that they must begin sacking, and I remember I said X must roll. They must begin dealing with the people who are effecting these errors, because it is untenable in this day and age. The assurance was given that they've made some changes at the human resource level. Are we convinced? We are not convinced. Do we trust that? We don't trust that. Why? Because just on network, at the end of the 2023 limited registration exercise, we raised the issue about network challenges. I remember I personally said we are ready to assist the EC troubleshoot their system, because sometimes some of these network challenges may not necessarily be internet challenges. It may not be either wireless broadband or fixed broadband. It may be because of incompatibility between equipment. It may be because some of the equipment are obsolete. It may be because even the person who is managing the system doesn't even appreciate it. So instead of seeing it as a network, as in internet, let us look at it as a network system, which includes the hardware and the software, where software can also have issues that can lead to some of these challenges that we experience. We raised all these at IPA. The EC did not accept our offer of assistance. The EC assured us that they've done their own troubleshooting and they are confident that there's not going to be a recurrence. Only for us to begin this unlimited registration, and we all realized day one was like Armageddon, cataclysmic, monumental failure, day one. Can you imagine if this is to occur on December 7th? How do we trust the issue? How do we engage on the basis of upholding the credibility of the EC when they promise and they fail? When they offer to assist, they don't accept it. They promise to take that in good faith, and they still go ahead and fail you.
Okay. Before we come to the voter transfer, let's wrap up on the original registration. So as we speak, following the Wednesday meeting, do we all agree on the numbers? So have all the errors been corrected, and are all sites clear on the total number of people registered?
No, please. This is because the EC is yet to communicate to us, are referring them to go and have a second look at the entire data. Fortunately, there's an IPAC meeting this morning. Even though they said it's an emergency meeting, it is an issue that we will raise, whether they have their final figure. I'm actually on my way to the IPAC meeting.
All right. Let's come to vote transfer. What is it and why is it so important? One would have thought that with the main business of registering new voters, particularly having finished successfully, this should be something minor. Why are we seeing confusion in Kaswa? 3 or so people have been stabbed, some have been sent to hospital, and that kind of thing. What is happening? Why is the vote transfer such a serious issue for political parties?
I must say it's very, very disheartening to see trauma, to see cabin in our electoral process. Very, very disheartening. The year 2020 presidential election, 8 people were killed, 8 Ghanaians. 1 killed, nothing happened. 2 killed, nothing happened. 3 killed, nothing happened. 4 killed, nothing happened. 5 killed, nothing happened. 6 killed, nothing happened. 7 killed, nothing happened. 8 killed. We are here in 2024, and these avoidable and disheartening occurrences are being recorded. We must do better, and we can do better as a nation. But you see, Bernard, there's something called gerrymandering. And with gerrymandering, we realize that, particularly parliamentary seats, because the presidential is one constituency, with the EC as the sole returning officer, it doesn't matter where Bernard votes, whether Bernard votes in Accra or in the Volta region. It will accrue to the president, the presidential candidate that Bernard votes for, because the returning officer is one. But it affects the parliamentary. And because of that, people who are interested in either protecting certain parliamentary seats or trying to snatch certain parliamentary seats away from their political opponents devise strategies to try and increase the voter population in those constituencies that we call vulnerable constituencies during transfer of votes. So, for instance, I have an authority that if you go to Ashanti region, a place like Ahafano North, NPP is very, very interested in that. And so they seek to have at least about 2,000 votes transferred there. If you go to Ahafano Southwest, they seek to transfer about 2,000 votes from Echuma, Ifangoma, and from Padasu. That is Ahafano Southwest one. Ahafano North, they seek to transfer from Asopa and Bantama. Secretary Afram Place, they seek to transfer 1,500 from my hometown. If you ask me, they seek to transfer 200, Gabin 300, Opulukrum 1,000. There are several of them. And there are several of such constituencies across the country. Some of these constituencies are constituencies that the NPP is holding presently, but they are vulnerable. NDC can easily snatch them. So they want to pacify them. It is this movement of people to constituencies. Otherwise, ask yourself, why should transfer at the end of a transfer exercise? Why should we be recording, let's say, 1,000 or 2,000 transfers? That should not be the case. But here we are. If you look at these figures I have mentioned, if the NDC doesn't put measures in place and doesn't ensure that client electoral commission officials do not collude with the ruling NPP, we are going to have a situation where at the end of the registration exercise, you will be recording thousands of transfers to a single constituency. It is this gerrymandering that is creating the problem. And it is the reason we are utterly appalled that the Electoral Commission will issue a weekend statement that political parties are not supposed to send their agents to the centers where these transfers are taking place. That in itself, particularly when there was an IPAC meeting this morning, and particularly when at the last IPAC meeting on Wednesday, we all deliberated and agreed that political parties will have agents at the centers where the transfers are taking place. So even if the EC has had a metanoia, a total change of mind, and wants to amend it, why can't you wait for the emergency IPAC meeting that the EC has just called? This is the issue. Gerrymandering that MPP wants to undertake. And as we are seeing it, the EC is tied at the hip, if not at the chest, with the MPP to aid them in this gerrymandering exercise. But it is something that we will not allow. The MPP has concluded that the presidential election is lost. They seek to fight very hard at the level of the parliamentary front. What they seek to use that to do, it is not fair at this stage for me to put it out on your network. Out of respect for your network, I will not put it out. But mark these words very carefully. They know they've lost the presidential. They seek to use every means as possible, fair and foul, to increase their presidential and use it for an ultimate end. We have all the intelligence, the very intelligence that made me know well ahead of time that biometric equipment had been stolen at the EC headquarters and the CCTV surveillance. When the EC had not informed us, then I kept the information until the EC was appearing before Parliament, before releasing the information to our minority leadership. It is the same intelligence that continues to give us these details up to the minute. The NPP is naked. Please, EC, you have no business tying your credibility, your professionalism to the electoral strength of the NPP. You just want a free, fair, and transparent election.
Doc, but I'm sure you're obviously also concerned about the violence that occurred, and the Kaswa one is a clear example. The EC issued a weekend statement asking their regional officers to direct their district officers not to allow political parties to observe the process. You have issued a statement to your observers asking them to continue observing the process. There's an IPAC meeting this morning. Is this not a recipe for confusion?
The question should be going to the Electoral Commission. The Electoral Commission sat with us at IPAC. And you remember NDC had been away from IPAC for several months. We came in and felt the need to re-engage. President Mahama also felt same. We all agreed that we shall return to IPAC. We go for an IPAC meeting just on Wednesday. And you have called for an emergency IPAC meeting on Monday. So this is Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. In effect, 3 clear days in between, because they issued a statement on Sunday. There's an IPAC meeting today, this morning at 10 a.m. What was the brainwave that made the EC issue that statement without coming back to IPAC for us to discuss that, okay, political parties, development partners, and the U.S. Embassy is always there, the British Embassy is always there, the British High Commission, CDV is there, several CSOs are present. What stops you from coming back to IPAC and saying that, even though we agree, blah, 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 so we think that we need to modify it. We all do and either agree or we disagree or we have a middle ground and modify it. We take a unilateral decision to go ahead announced. Which law tells the Electoral Commission political parties cannot have agents to monitor transfer of votes? They should quote the law. Why do they want to interpret the lacuna in the law, the vacuum in the law, the hiatus in the law in favor of opacity, when they can interpret it in favor of transparency? If the law says no one can be there as an agent, that is fine. The law doesn't say so. It means the law is silent. How will anybody interested in free, fair, and transparent election opt for opacity that the agents should not be there? It means they have something to hide. And we will not allow them to be opaque. The opacity must end. And they are provoking us. We have resisted the temptation to heighten the political atmosphere, the tension. We have resisted the temptation. As we speak, you went through a registration exercise with biometric voter registration equipment. We wanted to just record the serial number of the DVR kits that were being used. And our people were recording them. The EC at a point said, no, don't I record them. We told our people, decide them and record them. You know why? Because in some species, the numbers were even written boldly on the equipment. Your reporters who I went around can attest to this. Again, the start of day and end of day printout that the EC puts out, there's a QR code on it. If you scan the QR code, the serial number pops up. So what was the issue? When we raised it at the last IPAC meeting, do you know what the EC told us? The EC told us, oh no, we didn't know that was the number that you wanted. We thought you wanted the actual manufacturer's number that they had put on the thing. At that point, I stood up and said, EC, your Ashanti region officers who stopped our people, did they tell you our people were recording the manufacturer's serial number, or they were recording the numbers that you are placed on the case? How do we trust the issue? Bernard, the ecosystem of trust, ecosystem of trustworthiness, and let me reframe, trustworthiness is conceptualized on credibility, transparency, reliability, and the fact that there's no coefficient of personal or institutional bias. The EC has failed all these tests. Competence, arithmetic errors. Reliability, they tell us they will fix the network, it was not fixed. Credibility, when you tell us you fix something, fix it. How do I uphold your credibility?
All right. We will leave it here and wait for the outcome of today's emergency IPAC meeting. So we thank you for talking to us, Dr. Boamah, Director of Elections of the NDC. Thank you.
I'm grateful.